Welcome to Chapter 6. This week we're going to talk about contraception. Another slideshow will be specifically about the different types of contraceptions, their effectiveness rates, usage, how to use them, and so on, and an additional PowerPoint slideshow regarding abortion. So as we begin this week, we think about contraception, and I know many times we think in two terms. There's really no in between. The first one is how to get pregnant, and the second one is how not to get pregnant. Many of you are probably under the how not to get pregnant mindset at the point, but not all of us. And when we look at and think about different ways to either conceive or not to conceive, it makes perfect sense that we would know our bodies and our systems well enough that we could be able to determine and help a combining method of knowledge as well as abstinence or contraception based on your choices. The definition of conception and contraception is conception is the fusion of an egg and a sperm. An ovum and a sperm creating a fertilized egg. And contraception is essentially trying to block that in one way or another. Modern contraception is much more predictable than it's ever been before. And for many people, this is a way to be able to control the number of people you might have in your family, to be able to control your fertility issues, as well as even help with controlling and preventing against sexually transmitted infections for some. And next week when we do sexually transmitted infections information, many of the contraceptives you learned about this week will be discussed. Which method is right for you? I know when we think about in our life, one of the biggest ones I see on this page is religious and philosophical beliefs. You've already outlined your vision for yourself as far as your life goals, your life purpose, and your life meaning. And many times your vision of your sexuality is also embedded in that. And it's a strong belief to have that you know yourself, you know what feels comfortable within your value system. If you do choose to not use abstinence, which is the only way to absolutely not get pregnant, or to get sexually transmitted infections, choose an appropriate method of birth control based on your health risks. If you've had problems or blood clotting or other things in the past, paying attention to the use of different types of contraception for you. Implications of unplanned pregnancy. How willing are you to take the risk of becoming pregnant? And all of the birth control methods have different risks of becoming pregnant, as well as sexually transmitted infection risk, which might play into a part of, are you in a monogamous committed relationship? Was that part of your value system? And if so, to minimize your sexually transmitted infection risk, the biggest thing you can do for yourself is make sure that both people are tested as well as be in a monogamous relationship if choosing to have sex. Your convenience and comfort level. Spontaneity plays a large part in that, and many of the different contraceptions that we'll talk about will deal with that. Type of relationship you have. Clearly, in an open relationship or a relationship where you're not monogamous, if either way, if you've not been tested, to definitely make sure if you're not prepared for a pregnancy and you haven't discussed that option with your partner, then the type of relationship you have clearly plays a part in using methods of birth control, whether it's one method, two methods, or multiple methods. The ease and cost of obtaining and maintaining each method. If you have questions about that, I'll post this week a link to the Palm Beach County website of the medical health clinics that are either free or subsidized or sliding scale, as well as Planned Parenthood does sliding scale free and subsidized testing, as well as OBGYN services and maintaining and obtaining each method of birth control. The principles of contraception are based on a few types of things. The biggest one is knowing your body, based on the physiology of reproduction. We can't ignore that. Ovulation is the release of an egg. And the types of contraception that we use that block essentially the conceiving of reproduction is a barrier method where it stops sperm from passing through to be able to reach an ovum. A hormonal method where your body is essentially given a hormone, whether it's an estrogen or progesterone-based hormone, to be able to maintain a level in your system that does not release an egg. Natural methods, which are methods that are knowing your body through different ways that we'll discuss, and then surgical vasectomies and tubal ligations, which will also be in the other slideshow. The factors affecting your choice are advantages and disadvantages of each, weighing them, discussions with your OBGYN if you have checkups, as well as discussions with men and your physicians as well. The effectiveness. What's the contraception failure rate? Not just the perfect use failure rate, but the typical failure rate. Some of the typical failure rates you might see, for example, with a condom. Many times a condom is put on in the dark. First of all, turn the light on. Second of all, when you put the condom on and then you think to flip it over because it doesn't want to roll down, now you've just pointed sperm in the direction of pregnancy. So some of those things, as well as breakage, slippage, not choosing the right size, can all play a part into the actual effectiveness and not perfect effectiveness. The abstinence issue and thinking about where you fall as far as your sexuality is concerned. Your sexuality and your abstinence may not necessarily be related. You do not have to be a non-sexual person to be abstinent. You may be choosing sexuality to be in a committed monogamous relationship for your health as far as STD, for pregnancy concerns and so on, or for marriage. And without intercourse or sexual activity that's specifically vaginal penile intercourse, you cannot get pregnant. The benefits are obvious, and when we think about those, less worry about STDs and pregnancies, and if that's what's in line with your value system, it's worth paying attention to. The fertility awareness method is essentially a fancy way of saying rhythm method, but what we'll look at is the calendar. Taking your temperature would be one way, and you'll notice changes in temperature when you're ovulating. This week I put a widget in your lesson that has an ovulation estimator. It's not perfect, obviously, but it's just a way to be able to help tell you when you might be ovulating. Checking your mucus and your discharge levels. Another method that we look at is withdrawal. Do I think it's effective? I think it's effective if you want to become pregnant. There are many thousands of sperm on the tip of a penis before ejaculation. And that kind of moist, even undetectable level of sperm is where many times people become pregnant. So don't be fooled that using contraception at the end of your sex is going to be able to stop you from becoming pregnant. Combining methods is definitely the best way. And the reason I say that is because combining knowledge of your body, combining barrier methods of contraception, as well as combining hormonal methods of contraception are going to help to be able to eliminate the possibilities at higher levels of sexually transmitted infections by using barrier methods, as well as knowing and the knowledge of the days you are most likely to get pregnant. And then lastly, some kind of a hormonal method to be able to block you releasing eggs, or your girlfriend or wife or person that you meet from releasing eggs, to be able to know and feel comfortable that you are preventing pregnancy and sexually transmitted infection to the best of your ability without abstinence. Now, if you look at this chart on your page right now, where it shows you the days of menstruation, it shows you your possible fertile or unsafe days, which are usually 11 to 14 to 15 days after the first day of your period. The reason that's important is because when we look at the length of time that sperm can live in the body, documented sperm can live 3 to 4 days in the body, as well as your egg can be viable for 2 days after it's released. So that leaves a large window of opportunity open. This also assumes one thing that I have a difficulty with, is that women have a normal average 28-day cycle. We all know that's not true. You also operate on two sides. Each ovary releases 1 month at a time, and so from the right side you may release and have a 30-day cycle. From the left side it may be 26 days. Or you may fall under the assumption that there is no regularity to your periods whatsoever, and that's possible for many of us. And in that case, it's very difficult to determine your ovulation. The most important thing I can suggest, if you are trying to get pregnant, what I would say is to use an ovulation test kit. To check that and do that every month for 3 or 4 months to get a good idea of when your most fertile days are. Now, why wouldn't that make sense to say to someone who's trying not to get pregnant, to use ovulation test kits to determine when your most fertile days are? Those are your dangerous days of having sex, and if you choose not to get pregnant, I would definitely pay attention to not having sex before those days and after, and knowledge is your most important key to success if you are trying not to get pregnant. Hopefully you enjoyed the slideshow, and then the next ones we discuss will be more contraception as well as abortion. Thank you.